Hey, Evers here.
And Mish.
And together we're the Abundance. Thank you for joining us again on our platform. We're ready to take you guys deep in the land down under. Can't say we're out in nature today. It's a bit wet outside, so we've brought it back indoors. Ready to dive deep and get into some of this essential information. In our first introduction video, we started talking about obviously this awakening process and the ascension for obviously both of us. Part of our ascension, you start to learn a lot of different terms, and this is hard for the rational mind to sort of rationalize. It gets quite complicated in trying to understand a lot of this information. So bit by bit it starts to make sense, and obviously as much as you can process is exactly as much as that will come in. Today's video, 3D, 4D, 5D.
What's that?
I used to ask the same question. Now, I always remembered 3D pretty much a part of these glasses you used to get when you used to go to the movies to watch a movie. The 3D. I mean, from that point, straight away you're programmed to believing that the third dimension is something outside of yourself when you put on these particular red and blue goggles. And this is crazy, because what I've come to learn is that this is 3D, okay? We're living in it, all right? So today's video, 3D, 4D, 5D, we're going to be talking very basic to try and obviously get you guys back onto the same frequency and just help you to pretty much understand what we're talking about with a lot of these videos. When we talk about the spiritual awakening, there's many aspects. There's many aspects, obviously, the ascension as well. Ascension is a good word to really define these levels of awareness or consciousness. What the 3D, some people call it density, what they refer to it more as dimension, 3D, 4D, 5D actually represent levels or states of consciousness. So today's video we want to try and describe some of these densities and levels. And in between a lot of these levels there are different, as I mentioned, levels. We're going to keep it very basic, and we'll provide links down in the description below, which will give you guys, if you want to get in and research a little bit more, a little bit more detailed information. So 3D. 3D, how I see it in my personal journey, we're learning obviously from our own experiences. I start to see it as the self identifying itself with its thoughts and emotions. The self, or the human being, what do you call it, is starting to pretty much identify itself with the physical body and its surroundings. What happens in this is that a lot of the belief systems we were taught as kids, belief systems obviously in particularly religion, that you start to identify the source, the being outside of yourself, as something pretty much external that is going to help you on your journey.
So we could say that this third dimension is really experiencing or identifying the experience of life in the external world around us and not being aware of the internal world that we have.
Definitely,
yeah.
Definitely. And with saying that internal world, we're not so much aware of the emotions and the thoughts. Obviously, we're very much in a reacting or reaction mode to our external environment. This comes very much back to Newtonian laws, with that cause and effect. Obviously, being something outside of you, you are the effect of something that's going on in your environment, if that makes sense.
So personally, how I've experienced this phenomena is feeling like my emotions and my thoughts are in control of me and my reality and what I experience. Now, that is not a really very powerful place to be at all. It's quite victimizing at the very least. So why is it then that these thoughts and emotions in our 3D dimensional world have this feeling that they are basically in control, and we aren't? We don't have a say, we don't have that control. What's happening in 3D?
And this is the thing, and as we've mentioned in the previous video with the self-sabotage, with these things we call emotions and thoughts, we are actually getting quite addicted to the emotions. And this is why we're starting to react, obviously, to those things on the outside. We actually forget, or pretty much in a state of amnesia when we come into this physical body. So in this third dimension, we're relating everything back to the physical self, the physical body.
So it's like saying, I am my physical body, so whatever my physical body reflects, you know, for example, fat, thin, fit, muscly, all these different physical descriptions, you identify yourself as being that. You identify yourself as being your thoughts, being your emotions. Is that who we really are, though? In 3D, that's what we believe that we are. The body, the thoughts, the emotions.
And this is the thing, because that is the rational mind, that left-sided brain that we talk about, or the ego mind, that keeps you safe down here. And when it keeps you safe down here, that ego mind is in the survival mode. What does this cause? Well, think of your relationship, or what happens then if you're obviously coming from that left-sided brain, which pretty much all of us were educated with back in school. Now think about, obviously, if you're coming from that ego mind, you start to become much more competitive to your fellow person beside you. There is a state of survival, which I just mentioned.
Survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest. So it is actually a state of fear, and you are in a lack of something. Okay, so you want to, push the shoulder into the person beside you to beat that brother or that sister to getting somewhere in life.
We're comparing ourselves constantly with people around us, with everything around us. Comparing ourselves, we're judging ourselves based on people around us, or experiences or things or feelings constantly. So it's that sense of constant judgment, comparison, competitiveness, and there's never enough. Really, where do you stop? Where does it end?
And definitely in one other big thing, obviously, before we move on in the third dimension, is duality and polarity. Okay, so with the polarity, we're still in a state of mind or state of being, coming from perception that something is right, something is wrong. You're right, I'm wrong. So straight away, that is creating the illusion of third dimension, which is separation. Now, as we slip into the fourth dimension, or 4D, state of consciousness or awareness, we start to become more aware of these emotions and thoughts and feelings.
So with that awareness, we start to identify the triggers in our external world. These might be comments that people make. They might be our thoughts that come up when we look in the mirror about ourselves. It might be catching yourself when you are judging someone else. And we start to realise that maybe there is no other person, there is no external world. Maybe that other person is me. Maybe this external reality is happening from inside of me. Maybe I'm starting to create it from the inside out, and I'm only experiencing what's really being created on the inside. So that starts to create some very profound insights. And we can start to become aware and follow that path of insight or ascension, or we can say stay stuck. It can be a very dividing time of our life when we start to become aware of these thoughts, because they're quite challenging. They challenge what we've always known, our belief systems, our our family beliefs and values, everything in our reality that we thought was true, that we thought was right, that we thought, that we've stuck to and held on to, is suddenly now being challenged.
Beautiful. And as you can just hear in the tone of Mish's voice, in the fourth dimension, we actually start to show a little bit more compassion with others and self, as opposed to really operating in that rational mind. And up here, we start to come more down into the heart center. We start to see that obviously there are others outside of ourselves that we have to share that love for, and we start to become a more service to others is another big one. The ego is still there. We do start to become aware that we do need some healing, and although that healing is still in a third dimensional nature, you start to become, as we've mentioned, more aware of those 3D thoughts and feelings, that in itself is a part of the healing process. You start to become more aware of some of the tools that the fourth dimension has to offer in the things such as meditation. The fourth dimension consciousness is also looking, some people for a guru, some people might say a shaman, some people have this awakening through, plants such as ayahuasca, which is obviously a big one out there.
Yeah, so substances that seem to alter your consciousness or your reality that you experience. And look, some people go and take that path because it's sort of like that back door to what they perceive as the next level or the next dimension or that consciousness, that awareness. But then there's a whole string of different consequences to this backdoor entry, which we can talk about in another video.
Definitely.
Because we start to realise that all these external ways of healing ourselves, they're still not really addressing the number one thing of our internal self, our spirit.
Definitely.
So there's nothing external that can really change us. It has to happen from within. And guess what, guys? It has to happen from you. So I can't change you. You can't change me. We have to do this on our own. This is really part of the ascension, the awareness, that we have to become our own healer. No external healing is really going to be the long-term solution here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, 5D. So, just from obviously listening to a couple of these descriptions, you could probably tell by just obviously people that you may interact with, your family, your friends, work colleagues, that most of this planet at the moment is pretty much stuck on the third dimension. Okay, there are pockets, as we've mentioned, that are starting to awaken to these particular motives and themes about spirituality and techniques. In the fifth dimension, coming off the back end of that fourth dimension, you start to feel an essence of oneness. It's a sense of unity, that there is nothing outside of yourself, that you are this consciousness itself. You start to really see the magic of the flow of energy that you are creating. You are creator. This is when synchronicities start popping up in your life. You're actually becoming aware that, okay, this was something that I was thinking. I actually put my thought out into, obviously, the universe to make this manifest, and here it is in real time, physical third dimension, manifesting. In the fifth dimension, you are coming from that heart place. Okay, so we've dropped obviously from up here down that rational mind, that mind, we're coming from the heart center. There is a sense of unconditional love with no sense of fear. So you have unconditional love for all people, not just self, not just your closest friends or family, but everyone, brother, sisters around, you have this sense of unconditional love. You are really connecting with the higher source.
Beautiful. And you start to really, well, you don't start to, you actually know that everything is alive, and you have this mutual respect that everything that is alive has a right to live. So therefore there becomes a new sense of being, a new sense of power within your own being, and also empowering every living thing around you, knowing that it has a right to be there and to experience life just as much as you do. So it's this beautiful symbiotic relationship that starts to happen within your reality.
Beautiful. And look, it could go deeper, guys, but as I mentioned, we want to try and keep this short, as sharp as possible. Just give you guys a little bit of a background of obviously the third, the fourth, and the fifth dimension.
Now, one quick question before we go. Are these dimensions separate? Are they something we experience at separate times? You know, we're in 3D, all of a sudden you're in 4D, then 5D, and then you don't go back. What I believe this to be is that we are multi-dimensional beings. So we don't just experience one of these dimensions and then move on to the next. We are experiencing these dimensions all the time, in a multi-dimensional way. Yeah?
Exactly. And this is the magic of obviously this ascension. We are able to obviously experience the third, the fourth, fifth dimension in this body. And this hasn't happened before. And this is what is so special at living in this time right now. Now, we always like to leave you guys with solutions before we go. So today's solutions. Now, we've been giving you guys quite a few solutions in a lot of the other videos, and you probably get an idea that a lot of those things that we talk about are these solutions to work your way, or these levels, or as I call them, initiations, up to your highest state of being or consciousness. One of those things that has been a really important part of my personal journey in ascension has been meditation. Now, look, it does mean that you're going to have to close your eyes and, focus on that breath and slip into a state of awareness where you are becoming one with your thoughts without obviously sending too much judgment to them. I personally now have got myself to a state where after I've cleared a few thoughts and let them just linger and dissolve as quick as they come, I have now got myself into manifesting techniques. Okay, and this is when we start to see the magic of this fifth dimension. Another solution, Mish?
Yeah, so sometimes that monkey mind, it just won't stay still and it won't stay quiet. So often there have been times, and I'll be honest, I'll sit there and it's not happening. So what do? Well, I know that there are different ways I can calm my mind. I can put on some music, so that there's a few different frequencies that you can listen to, and we can put some links below as well for you guys. Yeah. So I put on some of that music, tune into that, and let my mind just focus on that music. The other way is yoga. So I find yoga really does clear my thoughts. Any form of exercise and breathing could have the same effect. And then after that, I find that I'm ready to sit there, close my eyes, and find some inner peace.
And beautiful. These levels, guys, of these different dimensions, these are all certain vibrations, different densities. So obviously with those frequencies that Mish is talking about, you're going to be starting to obviously vibrate on a higher frequency, which helps you get in and out of these particular dimensions, densities. One of my personal favourites, I'm a man of the land, an original man, would have to be grounding. We recently done a little bit of a trip up to Byron Bay, and it was just beautiful, just to take off the shoes and be able to walk around out in nature. Out there, it's vibrating on the highest frequencies. As soon as you take those shoes off and you ground your feet down in the dirt, sand, grass, whatever form of nature you love, you'll start to feel that energetic signature of Mother Nature really start to get you up on those higher levels of consciousness.
Beautiful. And it's very calming, very relaxing. And this enhancement of vibration and frequency can only take place when you are in that state of calm, when you are relaxed, when you are peaceful. This is when the shift happens. So we need to let go of negative emotions. We need to release those. So again, for me personally, sometimes when I feel overwhelmed with emotions and I know that they're quite heavy and they're dragging me down and I can't feel that higher vibration with them there, so I let them out. And maybe that's a female thing, but I cry, I let them out, because emotions need to flow. If we keep bottling them up, suppressing them and keeping them down in there, they've got nowhere to go. They're going to start corrupting our beautiful internal world and finding their way to seep out in little places. So you've got to let them go, you've got to let them out, and then I find that peace comes very quickly, very easily. So we have to let go to feel that peace.
Beautiful. Next solution I'm going to give you guys, been a favourite of mine also, obviously these affirmations. The affirmations which we've touched on in previous videos, if you check out our videos previously, affirmations got to do with pretty much you're asserting yourself coming from a future tense. You actually coming from that future place where you're sending out a particular vibration that really speaking to that universal energetic signature as we talk about. Now when you combine an affirmation with gratitude, this gratitude is actually a commanding string of words that's saying that it is coming from the future tense. Okay, so it's a commanding form of words to just give thanks to obviously something that you're trying to affirm or something that you already do have. And those solutions are definitely a couple of mine that I live by each day. So yeah, affirmations and gratitude, nice and basic.
Beautiful.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
One more thing.
One more thing.
We'll leave you with one more. So if you find that none of those things are really, working for you in that moment, you can always go out and help someone. So serving someone or serving in general, helping someone, we all have people that we know could do with some help somewhere with something. So if all else fails, drop everything, go and help someone. Go and do something for someone. It will make you feel completely different at the end of it. You will shift your emotions, your feelings, your whole vibration will lift. And putting a smile on someone else's face is very, very, very powerful. We know the power of laughter. We know that is extremely uplifting. So,
Definitely.
Yeah, give that a go.
Perfect. Love it, love it, love it. Which goes back into obviously that service to others.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, look guys, as you can hear, there's a lot of deep information in there, and we'll provide those links down below. We want you to obviously dig deeper if this is resonating with you. A lot of this ascension, this spirituality motives and themes, this is about finding inner peace. Okay, so if we can find that inner peace through one or two of these particular solutions and start to really vibrate on those higher frequencies, you'll start to see yourself getting into these higher levels of dimensions, into that fourth, and the sky's the limit after that fifth dimension. So look guys, I hope you have enjoyed the video. We're pretty much over and out here.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.